Hey everybody, welcome to Workforce Gaming. I am Brad, here to talk about Lost Records, Bloomin' Rage, Tape 2. I did a video on Tape 1, so I'm going to mostly focus my thoughts on Tape 2. However, at the end, I'll put a timestamp for where I just want to talk about the whole game as a total package, because I think you get a different picture of it, I would imagine, playing through this all in one sitting, or not even one sitting, but one time through versus the couple-month wait that we had to go through on release. So to dive into Part 2, I immediately feel like this is 100 times more interesting than Tape 1. Tape 1 was so much potential, and that was just kind of my feeling that it left with, there was so much more we could do. There's so much more that's going on. If they get this right, this could be a really incredible game, and they got it right. So the first thing I want to say is that the way that they kind of draw you back in and it makes it feel like it's okay that it's two parts is they do so much reminiscing and so many cool things just to kind of remind you of what was going on and kind of hit you with, okay, remember all this stuff. It starts right away with kind of this weird, very visually striking dream sequence of Swan walking through, looking at monitors of some of the videos you recorded from Tape 1, and just kind of gives you this, oh yeah, there is some weird stuff going on in Tape 1, and kind of instantly reminds you of that. And then when you get back to playing as teenagers and some of the kind of the reminiscing things, you're going right away to cleaning up some of the things that happen at the concert. I'm going to dance around spoilers as much as I can in terms of like actually physically cleaning, like, oh, look, right, we did this here. Oh, yeah, that's right. We left all of our gear here when we had to kind of run off of this thing. So it instantly makes you remember and puts you right back there with how it does all of this. And it doesn't feel like it's like hand holding, like, oh yeah, hey, remember, here's our last time on Lost Records. It does it in a really natural way that I thought was very, very cool for a game that does this. And then as adults, I think the other cool thing that it does to kind of get you hooked right away is the package that they received in the first game that kind of brings everybody back together. They open it right away. Like we're going to try and open this thing instantly. And that instantly starts hinting at what's going on and where they are now. And it kind of brings back some more of these memories for them as they're reminiscing at the bar. And I think just getting right to that really was a good thing to go, okay, we're not drawing this thing out. Tape 1 felt very slow moving, very drawn out, very like, okay, let's learn about each person individually. Let's get these whole things. And it was this kind of this feeling right away that I had like, oh no, Tape 2, we're running through this stuff. And I think that's why I liked it so much, because it is just kind of intense the whole way through. You are constantly running from something, hiding from something, having a really tough conversation, having really meaningful character moments between the four girls, and just kind of seeing how each one of the four of them kind of handles this thing that happened and this information that they got at the end of Tape 1. And it's heavy and it's intense and it's very heartfelt and very well told, very well written. And I just constantly kind of had this feeling of like, okay, like, whew, can't put it down. I ended up finishing it in basically 2 sittings. I think I played it for about a half hour right after it got put up, and then I just blew through the rest of it at night that night. With that intensity and with kind of some of those intense moments and those conversations, it's rough to get through. And I could see if you're dealing with some of the issues, well, kind of the main issue, and again, I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't played Tape 1, kind of the main issue that one of the girls is dealing with, if it's really tough stuff for the whole thing, just because it is constantly dealing with how she's dealing with this life altering, this just huge bummer of a thing, just this real big downer, and just how you handle the condition that she is in and how the other characters handle finding out this information, what's going to happen with her. It's really, really, you can just really kind of almost feel kind of some of the pain that these girls are having just because of how well written it is, as they're thinking through and they're dealing with and they're coping with the things that are happening, and just kind of almost realizing that, hey, we're just having this kind of fun, heartfelt, let's, go play out in the woods summer that they had in Tape 1, and now like, oh no, like this, there's some shit happening that we need to deal with and we need to figure out, and what are we going to do about this, and how are we going to handle this, and what does this mean for each character. That it is, I could see it being very rough for some people to get through just with all of that. To kind of get to the ending of all of Tape 1 and Tape 2 here, I kind of felt like there were some things I'm still confused about. And the sci-fi stuff in this, and we'll talk more about it when we get to the full game, the sci-fi stuff in this still kind of takes a backseat as it's just kind of this weird plot device that's kind of hanging there. I liked the ending. I thought it was kind of... There are multiple ones. I liked the one that I got. I feel like because it's one of those things that has multiple endings, and I kind of looked through just kind of what the choices are. At the end, you get your choices of who picked what and what percent of people took everything. I think because there were so many different ways that the characters could interact in that final moment, it almost feels like you kind of lose something or something gets skipped, and you're like, wait a minute, I didn't quite get this fully explained, because you kind of have this huge scatter shot of things that need to happen that no one path is really delved into. So I did have a few things where I'm kind of like, okay, but where did that come from? How did that work? But overall, I liked the ending. Does weirdly end on a cliffhanger for something that was tape 1 and tape 2, and that's what we were sold. So weirdly ends on a cliffhanger, which, yeah, I don't know how I feel about that one either. It's an odd game to leave on a cliffhanger. I don't want to necessarily get it too much into it, but it ends on a cliffhanger that kind of left me scratching my head. I liked the ending and where it was. I liked a lot of things that happened, and then there's the cliffhanger at the end that just kind of fell out of place almost. But I'd be more excited for more Lost Records. So to get into kind of my overall thoughts here on just what this game is, part 1, part 2 combined, I do think that it feels like basically what we got 80% of the game in tape 1, and then tape 2 really just felt like the conclusion. Like I said, it just kind of felt like you were running through all these things. It feels like that season finale where everything builds to it, and that's all tape 2 was just that series finale of like, okay, we got to tie up every loose end, we got to get you running through this, we got to keep it exciting the whole way through, we're doing this big hurrah at the end here. And that's kind of what it felt like, for better or for worse. I think part 1, I definitely think you could have shortened up. I think there were ways to trim that still, but part 2 I do think comes through and saves a lot of the issues that I had with part 1. And I do think that part of that is just that because you're so settled in with these characters, because you spent so much time just talking and just getting to know each girl and just kind of spending time with each one and figuring out all the different things about what each one, when it comes to tape 2 and you're kind of dealing with some of the things that happen in the kind of the main, what I really think is the main piece of this is Kat's story. So as the other girls are dealing with Kat's story in tape 2, I think you get a better feeling for that because how well you got to know them in tape 1. And I do think it's interesting that this initially kind of feels like Swan's story. Like, oh, okay, like Swan's this kind of quiet loner girl who goes out and she makes these friends right before she's moving, and that's so sad that she's moving. But ultimately what this really is it's Kat's story. She's kind of the bossy, pushy one, like, we're going to do this through part 1. And then once you kind of get the ending of tape 1, you kind of see why some of that is. And then tape 2 is everybody going back and kind of dealing with what's going on with Kat. So I do think it's interesting to me that it is more her story than anybody else's. And I think you can kind of see that through Swan's character arc, because she seems, I felt like her character arc was really drastic, because she does start just kind of like, oh, I'm going to go walk through nature and take some videos of some animals and this thing. And by the end, she's doing all this crazy shit that I just feel like the Swan of the first hour of this game would be appalled by and shocked by. So it's a weird character arc to take over. I don't know exactly how long this game takes. I think maybe like a month and a half. It just seemed like a really, really huge swing there, which I think, again, kind of points to this looking at Kat. And if you look at Kat's character arc, I think it's a much more like, okay, this is a natural progression. You can kind of see her dealing with what's going on with her. One of the other main characters in this, then I'm supposed to hate him, and we're all supposed to hate him, is Corey. I feel like he's an asshole to be an asshole. I feel like you never got enough explanation of why he is such an absolute terrible person to these girls. And yes, there are some people that are just giant assholes, and I think that's who we're trying to get at with Corey. I never felt like we got a why. Why is he so antagonistic to Kat? Why is he so stuck on hating these 4 girls? And it works. You hate him. I hate him. He's obnoxious. He's horrible. But it just felt like there was more they could have done to kind of really like make him fit in the story, because he just kind of shows up and is that from the jump of this whole game. That is what he is, and that is who is he. he shows up and you're like, oh, this is the jerk in town. Okay. And then because he plays kind of such a major role, especially when you get to tape 2, that it's just like, but why is he so focused on these people? Is he just maybe it's just that he's just supposed to be a giant jerk and that's it and we move on with our lives. But I felt like I was missing a little bit of backstory on him. So to wrap this up, the last thing, and I think this is kind of weird because Life is Strange, which is where Don't Nod kind of came from, focuses so much on some of the supernatural stuff, and this obviously has it too. It has some sci-fi elements in too with the abyss, and then there's some other weird little things that are kind of happening here. It's so weird at how much of a backseat it takes. I honestly feel like you could have this entire game from start to finish and completely drop every single piece of the sci-fi stuff in it, and the game wouldn't have changed at all outside of the very end of the game. I think that's the only place where some of this comes into. Now, there's a cliffhanger, so maybe we're going to deal with that if there's a chance for Don't Nod to continue this down the road someday. I could see that getting more into it, but for tape 1 and tape 2 here, it just kind of felt like it was there. We never got an explanation of what the abyss is, why it's there, what happens with it, what it does. We don't discover anything about it. I think the girls are pretty clear on the fact that from the moment that this stuff starts happening and they start seeing this stuff to the moment at the end, they know nothing extra about it. We have learned nothing. We have gained no knowledge. And the thing itself has just kind of been there, just kind of a little bit down the trail from the cabin, and it just is there. So I'm sure I'm probably missing something, or there's some meaning that you could read into it, and I'm sure you could do those kind of things, but just as a quick one-time playthrough of this thing, it just never felt important. And I think when you see something originally kind of marketed as like, hey, like, oh yeah, these 4 girls, they form a band and they go into the woods and they find this supernatural thing and oh man, things go crazy from there. And it's just, that feels so much what this game isn't about. It is so much a game about 4 girls who meet, have a really fun summer, do something kind of crazy, learn a crazy devastating fact about one of their friends, and how they handle that and how they deal with that. And I loved it. It just doesn't seem like the game. It seemed like the game wanted to have the supernatural sci-fi element, and it didn't. It realized, like, as it was going, like, oh, that's not the story I'm telling. That's not the interesting story. The interesting story isn't the sci-fi. The interesting story is actually in how these characters handle things. And I think that's why tape 1 focused so hard on character development. And I think that's why tape 2, the moments that really shine are those moments of Swan and Autumn in a cabin just going like, why haven't we talked in a week? Like, how are you handling this? Like, what are you going to do? Like, what do we even do with this? And just those are the moments that I think hit the hardest, because this is a character-focused game. And I think a lot of the plot points outside of that are kind of secondary. I absolutely love this game. I think it's fantastic. I think it fits so well if you are into Life is Strange stuff. I absolutely loved it. And yeah, I'm hopeful that we're getting a tape 3 sometime. I could very easily see this going on, and I hope it's successful enough that we get to see that. But we are Workforce Gaming. Subscribe to our channel. Leave a comment below. There's links to support us on Coffee as well. We'll see you later.